So this is part 5 of my trash compactor tutorial, and in this one we're going to concentrate on the doorway, the actual door to the actual compartment itself. So you'll see here straight in, and I'm going to go to my simple toys and I'm going to choose basic blocks. Now we could have a simple door, but what's the fun in that? So I wanted this nice flash archway, and I'm going to create an archway here where I want my door, and I'm going to have triangle pieces slide up and down just to be different, and because we can. So I'll just fill in the top part. So I'm jumping straight into this clip. You should be now, if you've got to this particular one, you've been watching the other ones. So as I say, the rest of it's all working. So what we're going to look at here is these triangular pieces here are going to go into this particular element, and those items are going to slide up and down in that unit. Okay, and I wanted to keep it in the theme of looking like a blast door, but it's like a mini version. Okay, so there's my little 2 doors. That's quite good, and they're going to slide up and down. Now I've just stuck those purely just so I can put those into place. Now I'm just going to go back to my creativity toys, because the one thing I'm going to want to do is what actually opens this door, and this is a button. But I want to make the user, when they're playing a game, actually shoot at the button, because I want another effect later on. So I don't want a standard button, I want a target one, so I get them to hit their gun. So I'm going to stick that nicely high up in the air, which is going to invite them to do a shot. And in my next clip I'm going to show you a bouncing laser in that particular one. So now I've got my target set up, I do need my path creator to put in. So I'm just going to check how many records there are there, and you see there's 4 slots all the way through. So I'm going to line that up, and remember it's not fitting flush because they're in slightly in, so I'm making sure it's the middle of those segments. And I'm going to hold the button down and put my point 1 there and just keep dragging it down until 4. I think that's it, that'll do it, and put that point there. So make sure you place the point and circle out. So we've now got our path operating on that screen. So I'm just going to come out of my spark mode. Come out of here for a second. Where we're going. Right. So what I want to do now is I want to link these actual items to the door. So what I do is I'm going to make sure these items here connect to that path. So let's just do right connection on there, new logic connection, new path connection toy, link it to that option. Make sure you don't click the other ones inside. And now we have our unit going up and down. And I find it easier to pick these items through here, so I can grab it quite easily and change the properties and change the speed straight away. Let's make that 50. Yeah. So I'm going to change the speed of that to 50, a little bit faster than the collapsing walls, which I think I set to 20. And I want to make sure it's slightly in, so I'm just going to check. If you notice I've gone the wrong way, so I should need it two places from the set point. Okay, and the last thing I need to do is the movement style. I need to go up and down. So you've done this a number of times in my clips. And we've already done this exactly the same routine when we did the collapsing walls. So it's just going back and forth, up and down. A little bit quicker than the walls, but there you go, there's our door. Now we'll do the next one. New path connection, link it to this, making sure we can reach it carefully. There we go. Right, a bit too close there. Probably should have made it a little bit longer to make sure I get the other one out of the way, because at this present moment can't seem to select at all. So make sure you have got the right one, and as you can see I keep missing it at the moment. So probably what I should have done is move the path a little bit further down so it was well out of the way. It's still too quick. Let's try and aim this up, get this ready. I couldn't have done this in spark mode, I found it a nightmare. So nope, keep missing it, come out of there. Don't know what I was going for then. Hold on. Just to show you it's not always easy. Wrong one. I've got the wrong door. Come on, can we get this time? Hey, got the right one this time. So, we've got the door. Let's go to toy box path. Let's set the speed to 50, make sure it's the same. Which we've got. Make sure I go the right way, so it's good. So making sure it is 2. And that's now our path there. And I'm going to change the movement style to be back and forth. And come out. Perfect. Right, so now I've got to do is just set them up, but they are now moving correctly. I've just got to get them to move together now. So let's just jump out here for a second. So right, I've just got into Spark mode. I'm just going to point to the path tool. That we need to reset. We need to remove those items. And if you remember from part 2, the very first logic gate we did was this one, which resets all the path tools. So what I'm going to do is going to create a brand new logic connection, and on output of that logic gate, I'm going to point to that path tool, and I'm going to go to connect to there, and I'm going to do reset and play. And now I'm going to press the button. Now by accident, you've just seen me by accident trying to come out, I've accidentally deleted the platform, which I didn't want to do, which is very frustrating. So you must be careful with Spark Mode, because you can 10 times give up on a whole toy box. So before I even test my doors now, I'm just going to try and put that platform back in. But you'll now notice I can't put the platform back in because I've messed it up, because the door now is in the way. It's moving in the way. It won't let me put that object in. So that's a complete mess up by me, my mistake, while trying to do this. So we'll have to come back and rectify that later. So let's come out of that altogether, and let's just test it now. So our first button, now move those doors back and forth, just to make sure they're together. So there they go. That's now the doors moving back and forward on the system. So what we need to do is, like we did with the collapsing walls, we need logic gates to stop the door when it gets to the bottom, and another logic gate to start the door. Yeah, so we've got to do just like we did in part 2. We need a logic gate now. So I'm going to go back to my Creativity Toys, and I'm going to go and find my logic gate. So let's go and find those. Where is it? Logic gates. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. There they go, my logic gates. I'm going to move around here and stick them with the rest of the items. So this is my next group. So next to my new wave generator from part 4. So there's my logic gate. The first one is going to stop it. The second one, which I clicked on, which is the nearest one to you, that is going to turn it on. So what we're going to do now is, on that logic connection, I'm going to do a new logic connection. On output of that gate, I'm going to point to the actual item. On output, what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to turn the thing off. Okay, exactly like we did in part 2. Now on this particular point, when it comes down to there, when it gets to that point, I need it to also stop. Yeah, and when it gets to the top, I'm going to need it to stop. Okay, so what we can do here is we can change the other settings. So I'm going to point to that little section and say, right, new logic connection. When checkpoint reached, yeah, can you input a signal into our logic gate? Now you should be already familiar with this, because we did this in part 2. So can we input a signal in there? And that, although when the door comes up, we'll get the door. So when it comes up, you'll see here the door should stop and get the signal to finish. So the door is now closed. Now when we open it again, we don't want it to shut immediately, so I've got to do it on the second point. So on this point here, if I point to that, new logic connection, when checkpoint reached, when it reached on that path, go across and stop it again. Can we input? Where can I get to it? Come on, there you go. Yeah, can I input a signal in there? So we've now got the mechanics for the door going up and down. Now this tool here, when we send a message to this logic gate, so new logic connection on output, what we want to do is we actually want to start the door moving. So can you find the gate, which is now hidden somewhere under all those? When I go into that one, and can we switch the thing back on? So just turn it back on, and the door will start moving now up and down on the screen. Okay, so with the door closed, I've just gone back to my toys, and I'm going to go to my simple toys and go to my basic blocks, and hopefully I should now be able to put the platform back in that I accidentally deleted while trying to exit out the Spark Mode. So let's hopefully, fingers crossed, and it does. Luckily for that, I can get my platform back in. I hope they change that in version 4 when it finally gets released at some point next year. So what we can do now is we can just format our door now to look a little bit of a door. So I'm just going to go and pick some blocks. You can choose your own setting, but all I did was use my wand, highlight the object, but I pressed the triangle button and I choose whichever platform you want. So in this case I'm going to do the Star Destroyer thing, Death Star Service. Yeah, and use those ones. But again, it comes down to your own choice, so let's go. Should be all the same now. Cool. The middle doorway I'm going to make into slightly different, so people understand that it is a different object. They know which bits are going to move. Okay, so that's that section blocked. And if we then do the two doors, that one we're going to do the Death Star tile. So the floor, that's our tile way. Okay, and then those ones I'm going to use that option. So we've now formatted our door. We've now got the mechanics in. We actually haven't got the actual mechanics to switch it on. We've got the logic set up, but nothing's firing into those gates. So what we're going to show you next is how we get those segments now working. What do we use to fire in those particular elements into that particular logic gate? That's what we're going to look at next. With the doorway all set up, I didn't want it to be just a straightforward hit the button and the door would open. I need some sort of mechanic. They have to do some sort of task. So what I'm going to use is I'm using gameplay toy. So I'm just going to move my creativity toys to my gameplay toys, and there's this pressure plate. And what I wanted the individual to do is they can't just shoot the button. They have to press on the pressure plate first. Yeah, they have to do that first before they shoot on the door. So they've got to stand on that point before they shoot it, otherwise it's still not going to open. So it wasn't as easy as that for them. Now, to control this pressure plate, there's two things I need to do. I need two logic gates. The first logic gate is to let me know, have you actually defeated the enemy? Because while we're doing the enemy, you can't do anything. Yeah, the enemy is the first thing that's going to appear on the screen. So I'm just going to position this logic gate between these two. Because the rule here is I want the enemy to appear first. Once the enemy has been done, right, then you can stand on the pressure plate and then you can open the door. So I need one logic gate there and another logic gate to say, right, the enemy's gone and can you now open it? Okay, but I want you to have the enemy first. So it's getting the sequence of events, and you'll see that I've staggered them in between them, just so you know that one is related to the enemy, and once that's cleared, we're now looking at the doorway option. So I'm just going to get into my Spark mode. So theoretically on here, when you hit that target, yeah, when you hit that, so the new logic connection, when you hit that target, you're going to go across all the way to here, and you're going to input a signal into this doorway. Right, and we're going to input a signal. Now we know that when you open up any logic gate from the start, they are always open, so the signal will go straight through. So this one has to be slightly different. Yeah. And what we say, once we've defeated the enemy, I want to close that gate. So what I'm going to say is new logic connection. When the input is blocked, which we mean knows the enemy defeated, we're going to input a signal into this option. So we're now passing a signal into that logic gate. Now the question we've got here is, how do we know that gate is? So we know when it's open that you'll go straight through. So I'm now going to try and select the pressure plate without actually selecting the cell. So you have to be quite low, because you'll notice the cell's high. When it's very thin level, if I can select it, where is it? There it is, that's it. On that pressure plate there, so new pressure plate, when you activate it, I want it to close that gate. Yeah, so I want you to close that gate. So you have to have killed the enemies to close the gate, and then when you fire the button, it'll go through to the things, and then says, are you standing on the actual option? So to be clear, this means both logic gates have to be closed. They're both blocked. So when we get to the final logic gate, so new logic connection, if that is blocked and the signal is bounced off, can I go to the trigger that turns on the doors? So can you input a signal there, and that will now turn on the doors. So we know we've killed the enemies and we're standing on the pressure plate. Now the other thing is, if we come off the pressure plate, I need to make sure that we've recorded that. So I'm just going to try and select the option there and do new connection on that pressure plate. And when we deactivate it, come off, I want to reopen that gate, which means we haven't done all the objects, therefore the signal won't get through. So I'm going to open up the gate. So the message has to come through. Now the only way we get that first gate closed is from our enemy wave generator. And what we're going to say in there is, if we go onto there and do new logic connection and say when the wave is defeated, can we close that gate? So we've done the first stage, we've closed that gate, so we're now waiting for you to stand on the pressure plate and to try that door. That's the tricky part of our logic, and what we now do is put that to a test and see if you've got that to work. So we're going to give it a go and see how it works on the screen. Now if you remember in our part 4 clip, we set up this third option to trigger the enemy wave generator. I won't fire it yet. I'll jump down and press on this pressure plate. Now that will close the second gate, but it's still not working because the first gate has to be closed, and that only happens when the enemy is killed. So we jump back up here, I'm just going to shoot the third gate and the item will start to appear on the screen. Now also remember, in our fourth clip we linked the enemy wave generator to trigger the walls as well as the other door. So the enemy wave generator actually triggers off 2 logic gates. So when we kill all these enemies, it will put an input signal to make the walls to start to collapse, and you'll see them start moving, and now they start moving on screen. By killing them, the enemy wave generator has also now closed the other door. Yeah, so the other door's closed for here, so we can now stand on this pressure plate which collects the second door, which means now when we shoot that door will now work, and we can now jump across the screen. And if I just drop down here, we can pull it through. Gets a bit tricky, but that now helps us get across, and the wall now appears. But the enemy wave generator passes 2 messages through. One to say make the walls collapse, and the other one to say it is okay now to stand on the pressure pad, and it closes the other logic gate. So we've now got our mechanics all working. Yeah, that's it now working on the screen, and we can now just add some more effects to the actual item. So that's now all set up, and we've made it quite tricky for you to escape from a trash compactor. It's not meant to be easy. But if you're a security guard on the other side, you should be able to easily access the trash compactor. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get your creativity toys, and I'm actually going to create a button that allows us to open the door from the other side, which should be straightforward. It should be a lot easier to open it than being on the inside. So I could do a target here and put it on the other side so it matches. But my big question is, why do I need to use a target? Is it worth having it? Because the target is only for that side. Really, it should just be a normal standard button, I think. So I'm not actually going to use that. I changed my mind. I'm going to use a standard button, and that's just going to be put by the side of the door that can be triggered by anybody. So if you're playing this game 2-player and someone hasn't fallen into trash compactor, they can open the door sooner if they wanted to by overriding this button. So I'm just going to place this button here. And the logic is going to be different because we don't have a restriction here for defeating the enemies or staying on the pressure pad. So I'm just going to do new logic connection when pressed. And in fact, can't do it there. Come out of that. I need to be in my spark mode. Sorry, that's my fault. So let's do that again. Let's go into spark mode. Let's go back to that again. Square button now. New logic connection. When I press that button, what I'm going to do now is go back, and if I look at my set of orders, yeah, that is what turns the gate on and off, switches it on and off, so I can bypass all the locks to do with the pressure plate. So I'm going to say input a signal into that gate. So if I now come out and make sure I don't delete it, circle out here, if I press that pad now, that should open the door. If I press it again, it should open it. So it totally bypasses it. So we've now set the door mechanics. Our next clip is going to show you that if when the door is closed and you can't open it, a laser beam is going to ricochet off the walls. So I hope you enjoyed this, and look out for my next clip. Cheers.